In his inaugural speech on Monday, May the 29th, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu said his administration will target higher GDP growth and significantly reduce unemployment. He stated further that his industrial policy will utilize the full range of fiscal measures to promote domestic manufacturing and lessen import dependency. The RT200 non-oil export program, an intervention initiative of the Central Bank of Nigeria, aligns well with these targets. Knowing that a robust export sector which will contribute in no small means to the country's GDP growth is unachievable without necessary infrastructure, the second panel of experts at the recent biannual RT200 non-oil export summit in Lagos discussed infrastructure deficit in Nigeria's non-oil export sector, an opportunity for public-private partnership. We have excerpt of that discussion for you in today's package, but that's in a moment. Stay with us.
Oh, I see. Just hold on in that case. Let me call out my PIN. It is 41...
Uncle, please stop.
Stop what?
You're giving someone else your personal identification number PIN?
Not someone else. It's from my bank.
Please hang up, Uncle. That's a fraudster.
That's not true. But they call out my full name. I am sure this is from my bank.
Uncle, no bank is ever going to call you to ask for your personal identification number PIN, your mobile banking password, or your card verification code, CVC.
But it sounded so genuine.
Yes, hackers and fraudsters always sound genuine. But please, Uncle, don't fall for their bait. Don't respond to any phony emails, text message, SMS, and don't click on any link you're not sure of. Even if they call your date of birth or your BVN, don't give them your security details. If you suspect any issue with your account, please go to your bank.
Oh, I see.
This message is from the Central Bank of Nigeria.
The Central Bank of Nigeria has projected that the economy will grow by 3.03% this year, while the World Bank estimated that the economy will grow by an average of 2.9% per year between 2023 and 2025, likely driven by services, trade, and manufacturing. Infrastructure is critical to driving economic growth, whatever the percentage. At the May 9th RT200 Non-Oil Export Summit, an initiative of the CBN to drive non-oil revenues, panelists drawn from both the public and private sectors discussed how both sectors can partner to bridge the huge infrastructure deficit in the country to drive growth. It's part of the discussion.
The first question that I'd like to kind of raise, which piggybacks on what the governor of the central bank identified immediately, and maybe we'll call on NPA and customs to talk about the export terminal situation, the congestion going on there, and the systems that were placed recently and how that process is kind of making progress. Can you just give us a quick update on that?
With the issuance of Executive Order 001, the ports were mandated to set up export processing terminals in the port area. But we all know how inelastic our ports are. So we were actually given a challenge. It presented a challenge to us because we couldn't expand to set up these facilities within the ports. So what we did was to have a pseudo arrangement and to set these terminals outside the ports. So in 2021, we advertised, because we wanted to partner with the private sector, we advertised for those who are interested, to venture capitalists, to partner with the Nigeria Ports Authority to set up these EPTs, export processing terminals. These export processing terminals are actually one-stop shops for exports. When you bring in your cargo, you can process the cargo, you stuff. They have laboratories, you test the items, you standardize them. You know how much our products have been rejected abroad. So they have facilities, they have laboratories, you have the necessary agencies, SON, NAFDAC, Nigeria Customs Service, all the regulatory agencies required for exports, they are there. So when they test your products, they pass you, they standardize it, you can even brand your products there. And when you go through the entire process, you containerize, and the containers are sealed. Then they are taken to the port through our pre-gates at Lily Pond. So we have taken the exports processing from within the port facility to outside the port, but you do everything you're supposed to do about exports there. Presently, we have, after we advertised, we narrowed down to 10. Presently, 5 are in operation. We have 1 in Janaki, 1 in Ijora, 2 in KLT, and 1 in Ikorodu. So you're actually welcome to go to any of those centers, and you receive the full complement of export processing there. So that's what we have done so far on exports. Then also the ports. It doesn't make sense when you have created so much volume from exports and the ports are not equipped to even handle them. So what we have also done on our own side is to try to look for ways to reconstruct the port so that our efficiency level can also go up. So presently we're in talks with some of our local banks and our Frexim on how to reconstruct our ports, and with those talks are presently going on well. Thank you.
Customs, would you like to weigh in at this point?
The export processing terminals and the domestic export warehouses are working well. And what did Customs do? We decided to bring up a standard operating procedure whereby once examination is done at the EPTs and EDWs, the containers come into the port without interference by any other custom officer, except based on intelligence. But so far, we have not had any reason, because our officers are also stationed at the export processing terminals and the domestic export warehouses. The only thing we do is to monitor that export goods don't come from unlicensed bonded warehouses. It must be licensed by MPA or NEPC before you can enjoy this special export incentive. Like the MD Starlink said, this has been very, very successful after we developed the SOP. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And let me call on UBA. We all agree that there's not going to be enough public funding for infrastructure. And the path forward is really around public-private partnerships in order to crowd in and bring in additional private capital. What's UBA's experience, with respect to public-private funding of infrastructure in Nigeria, and where do you see the challenges?
Okay, thanks so much for that question. Today, clearly, there is funding issue in terms of infrastructure support in the country. We are looking at $150 billion requirement every year. And presently, I think it's about $10 billion. So the gap is huge. So it calls for a more strategic focus for the country on resource allocation. For example, I would like to say that we can look at what is the economic value for the resources that we want to allocate. I'm calling for contract finance hub. We should, as a country, develop contract manufacturing hubs, as done in several countries of the world. If you are in the UK and you're on the high street buying any clothing, you would not believe that that piece of clothing was produced under contract manufacturing in Asia, in India, in China, in Cambodia. And we can do the same in Nigeria. Today, Apple is the biggest company in the world. But I tell you, a company, Foxconn, a Chinese company, is producing 70% of Apple products by contract manufacturing. And Foxconn is doing almost $200 billion and employing 1.2 million people. So the Asians are getting it right, but the Africans, we are still not getting it right. The focus and indeed the catalyst for Nigeria as an industrial nation will be contract financing. And we have the labor, we have the skilled manpower, we have the number of people, but we can look at it and focus clearly the resources in some of the key areas. For example, in Aba can be the footwear contract manufacturing for names that are outside the global names outside the country. The same thing as Aba, Nnewi can be the contract manufacturing center for key pharmaceutical companies globally. And it requires a policy framework for the country to determine how we can go about this and gain the energy, power that is required in those centers to move. And UBA is really willing to go along this line. And we already discussed with some nationals. I know that the incoming government in Abia State is looking at Aba and looking at the opportunities in that location for footwears. And I know the Anambra State government is also looking at pharmaceutical hub in Anambra State. Such engagements are going on, and we need support from the banks, from the development bank, from central banks, so we can focus our resources, and indeed, those contract manufacturing centers can become clearly the springboard for us to achieve the FX amount that we want to do under the RT200. So that is, for me, what we need to begin to focus as a country and even as financial institutions. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much for that. Mr. Kumar, maybe you can pick up on that theme and talk about your ideal context for partnering in a PPP framework to develop more power, which is critical to the infrastructure deficit that we have, affecting the entire economy, but even particularly the manufacturers.
Thank you very much for giving this opportunity, His Excellency Governor. It's very right. If we see the power sector, it's the complete value chain from generation, transmission, the distribution. The industry, which let's say needs to export, he needs power in terms of quantity, it needs in terms of quality, it needs in terms of particular tariff. Now, the industry does not have a proper, let's say the requirement of any quantity of power, he is not able to get it. That will be willed through some network, let's say 132 kV network or 33 kV network. That needs to be built. We understand that the investment by distribution company is not happening, but we should not blame it. Let's the public and private partnership, as you were saying, it's a great thing where private industries can come in, build that infrastructure, which is going to help the industry. Rather, it might be in terms of the distribution feeder network, 33 kV, or let's say 132 kV. There is an immense opportunity where the speed at which the infrastructure needs to be built, that is the essence. And that can be created when private and public partnership, they join hands together. And we are pretty sure that these initiatives where both of people join together, development can happen fast and it will help the industries. And also, as some kind of policies we need to develop as a country. For example, the distribution company tariff, we understand it's pretty high, about 65, 70 naira, it's pretty high. Why? Because of the deficiencies. And these deficiencies can be bridged upon, let's say by generation of the industry itself. But the gas at which they get it, the gas prices for them is about $8.35. is pretty high. Now, that does not have export parity. Let's say for LNG, an LNG terminal, you transport, it's a $4. Whereas for the Nigerian industries, we have $8 plus. So there is a need for structuring government policies which promotes the industries and they can generate more revenues, exports. So some kind of government policies are also needed to be restructured, which helps the industry to do great here. And I would say that the vision of RT200 we would be able to accomplish together in a very shorter time. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that. Let me go to NIPC to pick up on the whole sort of government support with policies and promotional activities. And since we as a country are in the early stages of PPP structures, can you give us an insight as to how NIPC can be part of that journey and how they can sort of enhance or seeing more PPP structures, particularly those geared toward infrastructure development and investment?
We've always been part of the PPP structure, because what we've been discussing this morning, it is clear that infrastructure is a problem. The inadequacy of infrastructure is a problem. And like the man in the video has said, investors will tell you directly, go and fix your electricity. You don't even have to do this promotional exercise. So what we did as NIPC is to market the inadequacies as investment opportunities. So we packaged information on all these sectors that you had mentioned in your presentation in the infrastructure sector, packaging all the information that an investor needs to know, including which government agency he needs to meet to get what authorization, which are the opportunities in the sectors, if there are players in the sectors, what are the incentives in those sectors, and we take it along to every promotional event that we have, either abroad or when we are receiving investors. That is how we support. But this is just adding my own bit. I've seen that there is interest in infrastructure investment. There may be financing. What we had done was to highlight the high-level opportunities, but we need this deep down, and we need to define what project, and the project, how does the investor recoup his money. It's not that we invite investors, and at the end of the day, they become glorified contractors, because government pays them. If it is defined that this project has, this is how we want to pay, how we want to recoup your money, it will be better for Nigeria to attract real investors instead of contractors.
Okay, thank you very much, Hajia. Let me come to this extreme end here and ask Mr. Shegun from the creative arts industry. Nigerian culture and entertainment is trending around the world, and it's become a major part of our export portfolio. How do we support, this industry to even become a bigger part of our exports, and what sort of infrastructure are really required to enable that? I'll come back to you.
Thank you very much for that question, and thanks for having me. Firstly, I would say that the industry has grown by dint of hard work, sweat and blood. Way back when there was Christian Nollywood, the entertainment industry has really grown. And then, of course, tourism has also been part of it. And before I go forward, I would like to say a big thank you, I think, to the Bankers Forum for what they're doing at the National Theatre, trying to revive the National Theatre and bringing it back to life. I would really like to say a big thank you. That was where we all grew up, seeing the National Theatre, and it's nice to see that we're having an event center coming back to life. Now, the biggest problem that Nollywood has, just like everybody here, I've said in their own capacity, is infrastructure. We don't have it. We just have, I'm sorry to say this, but we just have Nollywood on paper. save for a few studios built by individuals, you do not have what you call a major hub. And that's because there are no investments there. Most of the investors are a bit shy. They just want to gloss over through Nollywood and say, okay, let me just rub off on Nollywood and use it as some kind of advertisement or some kind of take advantage of it. But in terms of infrastructure, we do not have that. Let me take your minds back to Tinapa. Tinapa was built when? During Donald Duke's tenure, second tenure, when he was living. Tinapa has been moribund since then. If successful governments, state government did not do anything about it. And that should have been one of the biggest hubs that you find in Africa. Would have used that to colonize the whole of Africa in terms of entertainment. People come there and work. And it's such a lovely place. Such a lovely place. Again, we do not take advantage of our tourist attractions. Things that will help boost tourism, boost entertainment, and revenue. I mean, create revenue. We haven't, where's the Yankari Games Reserve today? We don't know where it is. It's moribund. Obunike Cave, moribund. Olumo Rock, all those things that we're supposed to be harnessing the partnership between the tourism and entertainment, none there. And then, of course, we're now looking forward to saying that if investors can, if you can get investors to come in and invest, you will make so much money, you will not even believe. Because what we're doing so far, we're just scratching the surface. You know, let me come down to the basic. When man pack, take cup, let me speak pidgin, take cup, pack gari, you see the residue behind it. That's what we're touching. We have not even touched the main content of what it is in entertainment. So we're just glossing over it. So I will appeal that investors should come in and put money where the mouth is. And I can assure you that you will get your money back. Because take it or leave it, if we don't get it right now, other African countries will. I mean, Ghana started, at the point in time, it was Ghana, Gollywood against Nollywood. Then they came with Riverwood from Kenya. But where are they? They've slept up because the hard work and the tenacity and the audacity of Nigerians, particularly, which I so cherish, has helped us bring it to that level. So what we need now is looking for funding. You need to bring a lot of funding into it and move the industry forward, and you'll be amazed at what it will do. I'm not saying government should come and give us money, but I know that what I will say is that government should create an enabling environment where business will thrive. I mean, you bring in equipment, you bring all those things. There should be some sort of tax relief. I would also encourage investors to come and partner with us here. Nothing stops us from having partnership with big companies here. So my appeal will be, have investors come in and let's see how we can take this and then build more facilities here. If you don't have these facilities, we're back to square one.
That's the much we can bring from the CBN this week. Be careful not to fall for any fraudulent recruitment portal or loan scheme advertisement purportedly from the Central Bank of Nigeria. Get your information from trusted sources always. Report unresolved banking issues to the CBN Consumer Protection Department using the email cpd@cbn.gov.ng. Attach relevant documents. Call the CBN Contact Center on the phone line +234 700 2255 226. Local queries may apply. Write to us through the email address fromthecbn@gmail.com. Follow us on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, and Twitter for updates and to watch uploaded episodes of the program. We invite you to join us again next time. I am Mulie Misi Dada. Stay safe and bye for now.